The second one is about influence. That is the second I. Recently I attended a congress where the topic was looking at bringing the heart back into health, which to me was a very appropriate topic. We need to bring the heart back into health, meaning we need to bring the caring part back into health. And we need to be more people-centered. It's the needs of people that define for us how we operate. So that becomes very crucial. And if we want to bring about change, then these two elements are key. How do we influence people to bring about the change we want? It could be a change in behavior, it could be a change at policy level, but we need to have that ability to exert that influence. And the last one is about impact. How to leave a lasting legacy of progressive improvement in the health outcomes. Ultimately, all we're doing in our work is to make sure that we can improve the health outcomes. If you are working in a facility and there's a high maternal mortality rate and that does not bother you, then there's something wrong. You should be interested in finding out why are pregnant women coming to labor and dying. What can I do to reduce that? What can I do to ensure that they don't end up this way? We must impact the health outcomes. That is what will bring about the population health we are talking about. So leadership is a very important competence that we need to inculcate in our practice. And then team building. The thing I want to emphasize about team building here is the whole idea of interdependence. When we are in school, we are a homogeneous group, even if we do group studies, because we are all pursuing the same thing, and we are all aiming to come out the same way. But when we come into the work environment, we become a very heterogeneous group. We have nurses with us. We did not sit in the same classroom. The things we studied, even though they are in the same domain, are not necessarily the same. The roles are different. We have lab technicians with us. We have other people, the pharmacists and all of that. That becomes a very heterogeneous group. If we fail to realize that the ultimate goal of our work is what we are interested in, all of us are working towards, and as a result, each one's work depends on the other to get to that goal, then we miss it. Because that is what will make the difference. So it is no longer independence. I am so and so, and therefore I'm on my own. But it is how I pool with each one in their own area of expertise to get the right result. Because ultimately, a big difference between group and a team. A team has a common purpose. A group could have so many objectives. And therefore, for a team to function well, we need to pull our resources together. I'll move on to a few more competencies. On management, what I want to emphasize here, because of the environment we work in, is people management skills. Relating to one another, working with people who are not at the same level as you, and how we are able to work together to get the best result. The second thing I want to emphasize about is management of clinical related information. It is so important because if we do not have good documentation, we cannot look back to see whether what we did was right or wrong. Neither can we look forward to see how we're going to do things better next time. So it is very crucial to bear that in mind. And then communication. And here I'm emphasizing more of the interpersonal communication. We start from the consulting room with our patients, with the nurses that will work with us. But how well we do it is what I want us to reflect on. Communication is not just talking. Actually, if two people are talking to each other at the same time, that is not communication. That is being crazy. You talking, I'm talking, we can never understand each other. So there's an aspect of communication that is so important, and especially in our work. And that aspect is active listening. It's not just listening. Sometimes somebody is talking to you and you are listening, but you are completely distracted, you are doing other things. No wonder in the case of the first vignette, the patients of Dr. Joe were complaining that he doesn't give them enough space to express everything they want to express. And before long, he has already scribbled his prescription for them. Sometimes they come with a heavy burden, they want to offload all of that. We don't allow them room to do that. So active listening is very key in how we are able to identify the needs of the clients before us and how we can support them. Decision making. I'm sure we've heard about evidence-based medicine. Our decisions might not be just off our head, but must be based upon evidence. And that is what we do in clinical practice most of the time. We need the evidence to be able to make the right judgment. But sometimes, the third element of evidence-based medicine is the patient's values and perceptions. Preferences rather, not perceptions. That becomes important sometimes. Because you might want to prescribe something for that individual. He is economically not in a position to afford that. But you don't give that opportunity to explore others. And that person might leave your presence feeling so discouraged. Why I can't buy this? And yet that is what you have written for him. This is evidence-based medicine which pulls together the best evidence from research, patients' values and preferences, and our sound clinical judgment to be able to help in making that final clinical decision. Okay, so I think these 7 competencies are the ones I want to highlight. There could be more, but looking at the changing landscape and how we fit in, especially with the different actors and players and responding to technology and the rest, I think these skills are key and we need to embrace them as we go along. I brought research here again because I just want to emphasize it. Research is so key, and we have what is called the health sector, health services and health systems research, as well as implementation research. If you do something and you want to know how effective it is, you don't need to wait for somebody to come and write a proposal and come and do it. You should be able to have the understanding and the skill to be able to determine, am I on the right path? Am I getting the right result? Where should I stop? How can I change course? Those questions can be answered by you. And the results you get, the answers you get, will go into helping you improve the way you work. And that is the kind of research I'm talking about. So we'll move on. A few more slides and we'll be done. How conventional medical education can help prepare the 5-star doctor of excellence. There's no magic about it. I think this is our bread and butter. We are doing it and doing it well, and we need to continue. But we need to place emphasis on certain aspects. The whole person model of care is important. And then building the capacity to manage health emergencies is also very important. Because today the emergencies don't announce, they just come. And when they come, as long as you are a health worker somewhere, you are expected to do something about it. So we need to build that skill base in our professionals to address the multitude of emergencies that we get. The technology part, I think It's already been introduced and we're doing it. I think we should sharpen our skills there and understand better how we use the technology effectively, and not just because it's technology. They are supposed to serve a purpose. They are supposed to help us do things better. So let the technology not control us, but let's control the technology in a way that will enable us to get better results. And that also borders on research. But given the different range of other skills and competencies required, it will be wise to look at these so-called soft skills and tap into them where they are normally done and where they are efficiently done there. Institutions of management sciences are very good at handling issues to do with leadership and management, decision making, all of those things. And the behavioral sciences are also very good in bringing up some of the competencies that we require. And I think a partnership with these institutions will help us to craft curricula that will fit into our needs and help equip and empower our products with these competencies that will enable us to function effectively in the evolving healthcare landscape. So this is how conventional medical education can stimulate and embrace some of these competencies. So my last slide is just to conclude and emphasize the fact that the evolving healthcare landscape has presented us with so many challenges. Challenges that we cannot ignore. Challenges that we must carefully examine and see how best to address them. We're getting more chronic lifestyle-related disease patterns across the globe. Mental health is gaining prominence everywhere. How do we keep up with the pace of rapid technological and medical science development? The advances are so fast. Sometimes by the time one technological innovation comes and you complete your training, a new one is up there. What you know is already obsolete. You need to catch up with the next one. But as I mentioned, technology must not control us. We must be able to use technology to achieve our goal. And so these challenges are there for us to see how best we work around them. I talked about the consumer who is becoming more assertive and more engaging, and we cannot ignore. The healthcare providers have also a responsibility now to deliver more value for money, because people are counting, those who are contributing to healthcare services, they are counting their money and they want the best value for the money they put in. So it is important that we become mindful of this. And that is why a new paradigm is needed on how we equip and empower our products, so that by the time we get into the work environment, we are already well positioned to deliver and not chicken out when things seem too much for us. So the 5-star Doctor of Excellence concept is an attempt to do just that, to identify what competencies and skills the key healthcare providers can be equipped with in this complex, multi-dimensional landscape we are operating in right now, so that they can be more effective and efficient in doing their day-to-day work. And remembering that the delivery of high-quality, value-for-money healthcare services at an affordable cost is what funders of the healthcare system are looking for, and we must be able to engage in that process. So this is all. Thank you for your attention.
time for questions. And any aspect of the talk, perhaps you don't ask a question, I'll ask you. I have to give you most
Thank you very much, Dr. Nyam, for such an excellent lecture. As a country, I think that we are still in the traditional mode. We don't come out of it, to explore how to train, say, a 5-star doctor. Fortunately for us, the new medical schools which are coming up are taking cognizance of this and incorporating that into their curriculum. I believe that we should not stop. We should not stop here. This is an excellent lecture which the Medical and Dental Council needs to go about. The traditional training institutions, the public training institutions also need to go about. We were trained the traditional way, so you will go out there and you are made, say, a district medical officer of health, and it creates problems for you because there are no managerial skills, nothing at all. I think that we need to let the whole nation know that this is what it takes to train a 5-star doctor, and we need 5-star doctors to operate in Ghana to make our health systems work more efficiently. So thank you very much for such an excellent.
Thank you very much, as Professor has said, this was really excellent. I just want to say that in one of the points you made about the expectations of patients, I think you should have included that they expect the doctor to provide financial support to help them to get their tests and their drugs and everything. That's true. When you become the chief boss doctor, they expect that for everything that happens in the village, in the community, you will be the chief financier and you always be there to provide this and that and the other.
That's true.
I'm sure the clinical students will have some experiences to relate.
Let's speak. All right. Your last remarks has to do with availability. I want to find out the cost of training a 5-star doctor and how affordable the services of a 5-star doctor can be managed such that the end consumer should be able to afford.
That's a very good question. I don't have answers in figures. But if you look at the additional competencies that make a 5-star doctor, apart from the technical proficiency, it is not putting that responsibility necessarily on the training institutions, but encouraging them to form alliances. I'll give you an example. I worked in one country and they were just about starting a new medical school. The first dean of the medical school happened to be an American coming from a background where they had introduced a lot of these into their curriculum. And so, out of curiosity, I asked him, how did you go about it? And it was purely the result. They were all in a big university, and they are different institutions. So, they engaged the Management Sciences Institution to help them design a curriculum, and when necessary to provide the trainers, and they were done in a kind of modular arrangement. They engaged those in the behavioral sciences to do likewise. It did not cost them any more than it would cost for someone who wanted to go and do a short course in managerial science, a 2-week course, maximum 1-month course. But they had already obtained the curriculum and they had the expertise to guide them. And all they did was to use the various field sites where the students go for training to do the model, put it into practice. So if you look at the overall cost, parents did not have to pay any more than they were paying for training a doctor, full stop. It didn't come as you're training a 5-star doctor and therefore you have to pay additional. No. And if a 5-star doctor is functioning at a particular place, he's not going to charge you because he's a 5-star doctor. He's a doctor. It's just that he has other competencies and skills that can make him more effective in getting the result you want. So you don't have to pay anything extra for a 5-star doctor. And the examples I've seen did not involve a lot of costs in pulling resources together to create the curriculum that will help to train a 5-star doctor. The cost is very marginal. Thank you.
I just wanted to know from your presentation, I personally believe that in as much as we want to be lifestyle doctors, I also think about the patients out there. As a professor who have stated, we are used to the traditional method of training doctors. Yeah, and I also believe the patients are used to the traditional method of when I come to the hospital, they do drugs and that's it. So I think they also have a mindset. They also have a mindset that if I go get a medication, then I will be fine. Like they are used to this way to treatment. Some patients, even if you tell them go home and test my drug because and they don't understand that they go and complain, they're not telling you anything. So I want to know what are some of the ways in which we can influence the thinking, the mindset of our patients. Like for instance, just recently we had a patient who had a deteriorated behavior, and we were just trying to be to assess him holistically. And we asked about where do we like deteriorated about it, and he looked at us like, what are you guys talking about? What's your business with where I live and my status and all that? So how can we influence our patients and the way they think? How can we make them understand that we are trying to assess you holistically? We don't just want to give you medications to go and come back with the same bill and
Thank you. Another very good question. Yeah, you can go ahead. Yes, there's a saying that change is the only thing that is constant. We are, let me say, a transition, and we want to bring about certain changes. We understand the change, but we are not changed yet. So the change must start with us. The change starting with us means we have to make the effort to begin to see patients differently, to begin to explain why we ask certain things to the patients. If I'm clocking a patient, then immediately I finish with my presenting complaint, I go to on direct questioning, and I just ask, do you have headache? Do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have that? where do you live? I'm doing my social history and all of that. Without explaining to the patient the importance of that type of information, and that is something you can do as and when the opportunity is there as you are tracking the patient. Without that understanding, it will be difficult for the patient to divulge that type of information to you. And therefore, we need to begin to inculcate these things in the way we relate to the patients and help them to understand why we ask questions like that. That aside, this is on one-to-one. But I think even at a community level, we need to engage our community health workers to be able to carry the same message across. If a particular community, and this was a very classic situation I experienced in one of the countries, there's a particular period in the year, they call it the cholera period. And the first time I heard that, I got disturbed. Every year, they expect cholera. So it's a normal occurrence. As soon as the rain starts, let's prepare, cholera is coming. How do you prepare? You prepare to take care of cholera, but you do not even prepare to stop cholera. So we have gone into that mode of being reactionary, more than being proactive and taking action before. And this is where our community health system should begin to engage. And again, this one brings it even into a broader context, because then we're looking more at other sectors that do not necessarily do health on a day-to-day basis. If you talk of water and sanitation, for instance, they are not bothered about your cholera, and they don't even see that your cholera is because they are not providing good water. So we need to engage them. And we need to go along with this concept of a healthy population. A healthy population means we should do everything possible to make people healthy. And that includes getting our environment right. That includes getting our water safe. That includes all those things. So, the answer to your question is not something we can do immediately, but it is a process. And we need to start somewhere and engage several other players who would ultimately contribute to making that happen and create that awareness in the population. Let's be change agents. We can do it.
I don't think I'll train to become a doctor soon. But I'm really wondering, at the start of our education to become doctors, is this the kind of message that is sent across to the students? Because if I enter medical school with very good grades and I say I want to become a doctor, so that's why I'm sitting there, I'm really asking myself, is it just about becoming a doctor, or it's about becoming a certain kind of doctor? I think that if we have students to ask themselves these questions, it will go a long way to influence the way they come out of school and even practice. Now, beyond the classroom, beyond this lecture room, out of the consulting room, I'd like to know, are there things that I could do as an individual to still develop these competencies to become that 5-star doctor that we are talking about? Thank you.
Thank you for that good question. If we take the technical proficiency of a doctor out, all the other things are open to everybody. And therefore, everyone can develop them. Being a leader, you have to set your mind to it. And you have to prepare yourself for it. A leader is not only one who has gone to sit in the classroom and obtain a master's degree in leadership. No. A leader starts from home. A leader starts from how you take care of yourself. Right from home. how you manage your own self. A leader must be somebody who has a high emotional intelligence. How do you manage your anger? Those are questions that we need to be asking ourselves. You don't jump to become a leader when you have not prepared yourself to influence yourself in a way that will enable you to influence others. So leadership starts with you, and it starts from home. The additional things come because you have already set the pace for it. Yes, to have managerial skills will require a little bit of learning and also mentoring. Yes. A lot of those skills and competencies can be passed on through mentorship. And therefore, it doesn't have to be going to sit in a classroom somewhere to learn and get a degree for them, no. But identifying mentors who can help instill those qualities in you. And you can develop them with time. Our medical training is a kind of mentorship process. And now what we are asking is, let's bring in some of those other qualities that we don't normally get in our medical training. Let's bring them on board. And I believe through a mentorship arrangement, we can spread this far and wide. But since you are hoping one day to be a doctor, then remember that technical proficiency is also important. That will to make you a 5-star doctor. Thank you. Good. Thank you. Okay.
I want to find out how ICT or technology can help us in lab-related instances. For instance, the vessel for H1N1 was approved by the WHO for the outbreak of the disease. So, and using technology aimed at education and ICT, how can we use these models towards detecting lab-created vaccines or diseases for commercial use?
I think technology presents us with several opportunities. And in the field of medicine, we have to be again intentional about what we want to achieve. So for us to be able to do what you are asking about, we need to work in partnership. Work in partnership with people in the field of IT, so we can know what devices and what tools will enable us to do what, and be able to share the information as quickly as we can. And we also need to work in partnership with ourselves. I mean, I'm talking about the health professionals, in terms of how we want to intervene on that particular problem, so that we can together have a common goal and vision towards developing that. IT, the way I look at it, it's not a standalone thing. It is a device, or it's a tool that we can use or can apply to different areas. And if you take the healthcare environment, IT can serve so many purposes. So whilst perhaps we might want to develop certain IT devices that will help us to detect certain things even at home, certain conditions that we want to detect at home, we as health professionals will have to provide that basis that the IT people can guide us on. It's working in partnership with them to be able to design the right tools that will enable us to do what we want to do. If we decide we want to go it alone, we might not be able to succeed very well because we are not IT people. But we are using the tools that IT presents to us to progress with our own area. I don't know if that answers your question.
filled in the evaluation form. You all have filled the evaluation form. Yeah. Well, we are also privileged to have in our midst these guests. And the first one I have here is Dr. Lillian Monsi. She's in a private company as a medical officer. We would like to welcome her. Thank you. There's another form that you have to fill for CPD check. I mean, I'm sorry. Okay, then we have said for quick age demographic. Then Lydia Nate. And Simon Lamptey. They come from New Care Medical Center. You're most welcome. Well, as is our usual, we have a monthly public lecture of interest to ask medical students and record. And one thing that we are not seeing is you invite your friends, so girlfriends or boyfriends. Moving on this vision, show for your parents. Yeah. So I want to thank you all for coming, and refreshments at the back. And please, Dr. NYARKO is one of Ghana's, one of African expert TB man or woman. That's fantastic. And tomorrow you will be wanting to get some job somewhere, and he actually is an ambassador. The pt2 representative is an ambassador. Okay, so it's you like that your SM. Not one of So at the end, he will stand here and please come and take a photo with him so that tomorrow you can go and flash it. This is my mentor and just seeing him with you, doors will be open for jobs elsewhere. Yeah, I'm telling you, start with the 5-star. That you can go visit the doors of the 5-star. Yeah? Yeah. So you're most welcome and of course, so many at the back there. None of you part. So your last chance now is to clap.